I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Marv B, and you are listening to another episode of the Man Listen Show. Before we get started, let's hear a few words from our sponsors. Are you tired of expensive cable bills? Well, Magic Streams is just for you. Magic Streams is a cost-effective alternative to traditional cable, which includes over 2,500 live HD channels. With Magic Streams, you are able to watch local network TV, and you are also able to follow all of your favorite sports teams. Magic Streams lets you watch your favorite movies and TV shows on demand from anywhere. Live TV on your iPhone, iPad, Amazon tablet, or Android mobile device. We have plans that start as low as $19.99 per month. You don't want to miss it. Email us at magicstreamsmb@gmail.com for more information. That's magicstreams, magicstreamsmb@gmail.com for more information.
Title Boxing Club of Rock Hill is proud to be a sponsor of the Man Listen Show. Title Boxing Club Rock Hill offers dynamic boxing and kickboxing classes for all. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TBC Rock Hill.
The Man Listen Show is also brought to you by Conversate With Us Radio. Conversate With Us Radio, your urban radio show podcast. A fun place to look for advice and a different perspective on life, love, relationships, sports, and politics. One conversation at a time. You can find us on Facebook at Conversate With Us Radio and on Instagram at Conversate With Us. Don't forget to capitalize the V in Conversate. All right, we're back. Let me go ahead and introduce the crew. Arika, what's going on with you?
Nothing much. What's up?
Oh, not too much. C, how you doing?
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing good, thank you. And Lab, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
Doing good. So today we're going to talk about abortion. Abortion rights have been in the news here lately. Last week, there were several states who took measures to basically make abortion illegal. Missouri, the home state for many of us on the Man Listen Show, voted in to make it illegal for any abortion to take place after 8 weeks. They joined along with Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Ohio in putting forward some sort of laws basically outlawing abortion. The long game in this is that they're trying to push the issue back to the Supreme Court so that they can challenge and get Roe versus Wade overturned. The Supreme Court, as we know, the Republicans basically stole the nomination from President Barack Obama, and now this Supreme Court is highly conservative. So the likelihood of abortion going away is very high. So we're going to talk about that today, talk about abortion and how it affects the black community, and just present our perspectives on this recent news and this recent attack on women's rights. So we'll start off with Arika. Arika, what did you think about it when Missouri joined along with the other states to basically ban abortion? I mean, who knows if they're pregnant after 8 weeks? I mean, that's not a big window to find out that you're pregnant and be able to make a decision that will impact your life for so many years.
Well, I was furious personally because I feel like this issue has long since been resolved. And what's the purpose behind bringing it up now? And I think it goes back to what you just said. The purpose of bringing it up now is that there's a highly conservative Supreme Court, and they want to push this issue up to the Supreme Court to try to overturn Roe v. Wade. But the problem with what a lot of these people are doing is that they're making it so restrictive that they're alienating some of their own fan base. Like, Missouri doesn't even include an exception for rape or incest, which a lot of people who are even strong pro-life people disagree with. And then one discussion that I had was there's a danger in pushing that argument, because if you focus on arguing that there should be better exceptions for rape versus incest and things like that and medical emergencies, then you kind of get people to insert those alternatives as opposed to providing the general access to abortions as needed. And so I think that those exceptions are important, but I think the overall right to have an abortion is more important because, like you said, it's a lifelong commitment. And we've all seen somebody that we've like, oof, who gave them a child? And now we're like, all of these people who knew that they didn't have any business having a child are going to be forced to have a child or be faced with potential criminal charges that could be more than in Georgia. You could face 99 years for having an abortion after whatever time period, but a rapist doesn't even get 99 years. So you get more time for aborting a rapist baby than you do for being an actual rapist. I'm like, that's insane. And then when I learned that lawmakers specifically stated that there would be no repercussions for killing the embryos at the fertility banks, then I was like, this is definitely about controlling women's bodies, because you don't care about those eggs, but you care about the eggs that I'm carrying around or somebody's carrying around. I don't have any anymore. But my point is that changes the narrative for me, because if you're trying to say that the ones that are in a woman are different than the ones that are at the fertility clinic, or that they deserve less or more, protection, then you're gonna have to explain that one to me.
The thing that I never understood about Republicans and conservatives and pro-life people, hardcore pro-life people, is they're so adamant about protecting the child's life when it's, in the womb or, in the initial stages of the pregnancy. But when that child is born, they want nothing to do with it. They want to roll back everything that can help that child succeed in life. They want to roll back welfare. They want to roll back education, things that will help that child flourish. They want nothing to do with that. But if you're talking about possibly aborting a life or terminating a pregnancy, I guess is a better way to say it, they're all about that. And I think it just goes back to white supremacy and the control that they want to have over everything. Somebody brought up a good point. The death numbers of white Americans is exceeding the birth rate. So if they continue on this path, they are going to be eventually the minority. I mean, there's stats that say that eventually, they will not be in the majority. And that's why they're trying so hard to shore up the courts with conservative people to sit on the bench, because eventually they won't be able to outvote everyone else. And what they will need is the court to be able to back up these standards and these guidelines and these laws, these regulations that they put forward to restrict other people from doing what is counterintuitive or against what white supremacy needs to survive. So, I mean, see, what did you think about it when you saw it in the news? The attack that they put on abortion's rights, women's rights. What was your thoughts when you first saw that?
They're not really pro-life. They're just pro or anti-abortion. They just, want to control everybody. Like you said, they say that you're pro-life and they don't want you to terminate a pregnancy. But if that mom that's telling you she's not in a position to give birth and actually have that child and raise it, like, where are they when she says she needs help? Then that's all of a sudden, she shouldn't have had the kid. And, people got to make better decisions. Well, she tried, but, you were against it. But I honestly, as far as abortion, I do kind of see like why they want to somewhat regulate it. But I mean, the 8 weeks, like you said, that's too soon. Like a lot of people don't even find out until they're 12 weeks, or further. Some people are like in their second trimester when they find out. And then as far as like, outlawing it for, young girls, I mean, 12, 13, that could be raped or molested or anything like that. They're not looking at like, the quality of life she's going to be able to give a child or that she's even going to be able to have herself. So if you're so pro-life, like what about hers? And that's what I don't like about it. So a lot of time, like Erika said, I think it's just more of a control issue.
Mm-hmm. It's pro-life. It's pro-birth, not pro-life, because they don't care about the life of the child. They only care about the birth of the child.
True. That's very true. Lab, what do you think?
I tend to agree pretty much with everything. I'll be honest. When I first heard about it, I was really honestly indifferent to it, and it might be a male perspective, but I was like, that's not going to necessarily affect me, So I probably didn't have the same anger, didn't have the same, it really didn't boil my blood at all, to be honest with you.
You don't have any sisters?
No, I do, but again, I know my sister, I know that she's probably kind of similar to you. She's beyond the point to where it would affect her. So yeah, it really didn't.
Or granddaughters.
Personally, I consider myself pro-life at all stages. And so it did ring somewhat hypocritical, kind of like you guys said, that you're going to restrict access to ability to terminate a pregnancy. But if you do that, you don't have anything lined up for the kids to succeed. And then you're pulling back educational benefits, you're pulling back healthcare benefits, you're pulling back assistance, government assistance. So it is somewhat hypocritical. Like I said, personally, I'm not for it, but everyone has a right to do as they please. So
I'm definitely pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice. And I don't think that we should try to dictate to people what they should do with their bodies, and especially not men trying to dictate what women should do with their bodies. And there's some people who, yes, I really would hope that they would make better decisions before it came to that. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. I mean, rubbers are cheap, protection is cheap, but I also realize that things happen, and they do happen, and we should not be so harsh and penalize folks that may have made I hate to call it a mistake, but may have made a slip up or a mistake, and now they have to try to figure out a way to make the best decision for them and their family. So
and with the Missouri law specifically, like I can't even begin to fathom being a woman who was a victim of a rape and having to continue that pregnancy, and it's almost like you're reliving that rape every day. You know what I mean? It's almost like every day you look at your child. It will be difficult. I mean, I'm sure people have done it, but I can't imagine being forced to do that.
What do you think?
It's more than difficult. That's crazy. It's crazy to expect somebody to do that. And like, there's a hashtag going around. I can't think of what it is exactly. It's like I am her, and it's women like sharing their stories of why they chose to have an abortion or whatever. And it's basically like trying to remove some of the stigma that women have in this, because a lot of times when people do it, they don't tell anyone. And so it's a lot of men feel like they don't know anyone unless they've had that personal experience, when in fact they do know people. They just haven't heard it from any women that they've had. And me personally, I was sexually assaulted by this guy whose sole intention was to get me pregnant so that I could have his kid, because he thought he was going to die in 5 years, whatever. I'm not going to go into the whole details or whatever, but there's no way that I was going to spend my whole life raising a little person that looked like him. That child would be so like emotionally traumatized, because how could I interact with that child without feeling a certain way about him? Like, that's punishing too many people for the mistakes of one person. That's insane.
After looking at all these different states too, another thing that popped out to me, and it was a topic that we've discussed several times, but and you kind of touched on it, Arika, is the importance of like these local elections. So some of these people making decisions are alienating their constituency, right, by making these decisions, and it just stresses again that we need to get out and vote for people that have our best interests in mind, specifically in local elections.
That's true.
Well, I think that's where we always talk about the two-party system that we have, and the Republicans versus the Democrats. There's a book called Dark Money, and it was written by Jane Mayer, and she talked about the repercussions to the election of President Barack Obama. The Republicans and the conservatives, and people talk about the Koch brothers, they did not take that sitting down, President Obama being elected. They saw how motivated and enthused we were, and they were willing to protect their way of life at all costs. So it talks about how they implemented a plan. They implemented a plan to create think tanks that would educate young conservatives, so that they, even if it was a lie, that if the whole saying, if you say a lie long enough, it'll become the truth. So they could sort of brainwash these young people into thinking that the conservative way of thinking that the Koch brothers and that many other people had is the right way to think. And really all they were trying to do was to protect their money, right? So there was a Supreme Court ruling that made it to where all of this money could come in from these dark donors, and they can basically influence elections. And what they did with that is they basically took over all of the state houses. They took over many of the governor's mansions. They took over many of the state houses, the House of Representatives and the Senates in these local these state elections. And who fell asleep at the wheel was the Democrats. And who was in charge of the Democrats at the time? President Barack Obama. So they put forth a plan, and that's my issue with the Democratic Party. And when people say, "Hey, listen, you shouldn't criticize Joe Biden, you shouldn't criticize Kamala Harris, you shouldn't criticize this person or XYZ person because we got to get Trump out of office at any cost." No, I need you all to tighten it up, because they have no problem with wielding their power. Trump has no problem with saying, "I'm not doing this. I'm playing to my base," and these folks aren't playing any games. And when it comes to the Democrats, they're not doing that. So we're on the losing side, and I'm sick of having to deal with this. Well, let's deal with the lesser of two evils. No, I need my issues addressed. So, speaking of the issues being addressed, I mean, do you think that this will have a inordinate effect on black women?
I personally don't think it's going to be any harder for black women than it is for white women. I mean, statistics have proved they actually get them at a higher rate than black women.
I think the issue is going to be access. So a lot of times it comes down to finances. So when you talk about an 8-week time frame to get an abortion, that's 8 weeks to come up with that $450 that they want you to pay for the abortion. That's going to be a lot harder for poor black families than it is for a young woman who has mommy and daddy at home who can come up with that money for her. So a lot of times when you say, well, why are people waiting past 8 weeks? They might know, but maybe they're waiting on 2 or 3 more checks to come through before they can afford it. And so when it comes down to being able to say, well, okay, well, Missouri doesn't allow it. Well, can mommy and daddy afford to drive you over to Illinois to get it done? Or can they afford to give you the money in time before the 8 weeks is up? It comes down to access. So will we be disproportionately affected? Yes, because we are disproportionately impacted by the wealth structure, period, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, because the racial wealth gap strikes again, right? We're not able to be agile to handle the bumps and blows that life puts on us. I mean, I think people said in order to get out of poverty, it has to be like something crazy, like you have to have like 30 something years or something crazy like that basically nothing happens to throw you off. Your car doesn't break down, your kid doesn't break a leg, nothing happens. You don't have an unexpected pregnancy. Nothing happens for you to be able to change your situation for a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, I definitely see how that could impact young black women. But I think that you always hear about Planned Parenthood, and I think plenty of us have an issue with Planned Parenthood because of the racist history. I mean, Roe versus Wade has a racist history. I mean, if you all look it up, the woman and I forget her real name, but Roe wasn't her name. That was like you have like John Doe. Roe was like her anonymous name, and basically they sold this as she was gang raped by a bunch of black men and she needed the abortion. And then later on, you find out that she lied. She lied about that whole scenario. Surprise, surprise, right? Like we haven't heard a white woman, lying about how she got pregnant by a black man. But I think that it's important for us to not maybe be on the front line to fight this battle for women's rights. But we need to be cautious on how we put ourselves, because we might put ourselves out there and then we always end up losing, because then we might need to save our resources and our energy for when they come at us. And I definitely think they're coming at us sooner than later.
Right, but that's like too with Planned Parenthood when they were worried that Trump was going to ban Plan B. They went out there and stocked up on that stuff. And Plan B is like $50 a pill or something like that. So who in our community has the ability to just go stock up on Plan B? Just spend $200. Like you're planning for that? Like you're planning to make a mistake, but that again is access. Having access to Plan B, if it goes off the shelves, is something that will prevent them from being in a situation where they need to have an abortion. And again, that's that whole, like you said, Planned Parenthood has its suspect history. And I wouldn't necessarily say that we need to be championing this cause, but as a woman, I have to be concerned for other women, because what happens is when they don't have access to doctors that can do it properly, they start taking matters into their own hands. Like I know somebody from the 60s that said that they got in a situation and their friends pushed them down a flight of stairs to help them out of that situation. That was the plan that they came up with, to push this girl down a flight of stairs. And this is what, yes, but this is what desperate people will come up with in crazy situations if necessary. And that's what we need to be afraid of.
And think about like the young girl who doesn't even know what her body's going through, that may be molested or raped, and then they not figure it out, or she might not tell her parents till she's past that 8-week mark. What happens then?
Yeah.
I was, really gung ho on. I wouldn't say gung ho. I've always been pro life or pro birth. Pro life. I'm pro life. But when I studied and I learned about Margaret Sanger and the problem history of Planned Parenthood, I was real loud and boisterous about how black people shouldn't be supporting Planned Parenthood. But then some sisters stepped up and they said, hey, listen, you know what? When I was a young woman, Planned Parenthood helped me out through not necessarily having an abortion per se, but just women's health issues. That was what I could afford, and Planned Parenthood offered those services to me. So it's bigger than just abortion and our thoughts about whether it's right or whether it's wrong. I think that we need to look at all the ramifications outside of just what if it came from incest or it came from rape. And it really speaks to, I know a lot of people that say, hey man, black people need to start considering aligning with the Republicans. But I have an issue with some of these people that they put forward. I mean, what kind of sick doctrine makes you believe that, the comments that they make about rape and incest? I mean, I'm just like, man,
consensual rape.
Yeah, consensual rape, crazy mess like that. And I'm just like, man, why would I want to be aligned with, some sick individuals like this who, even if you didn't say it, for you not to come out and speak against that, I just have an issue with that. I have a strong issue with that. But what do you say to those people? Because I heard from some black people that said, hey, listen, why are we talking about how bad these laws are, but we aren't talking about accountability and people doing what it takes to keep themselves from being pregnant?
There's always room for to discuss accountability and things like that. But again, I think like people have touched on, things happen. I mean, so, I don't necessarily feel comfortable with, I'm not going to say ruining somebody's life, but altering the quality of life for a lot of people over youthful indiscretion. It's honestly the same way when it comes to crimes that are committed. I don't think kids under a certain age should ever be given a life sentence or what have you,
A lot of it comes down to education too. So when you have a bunch of kids or young adults who are in serious relationships, according to them, and they're acting on information most likely from their circle of influence, which is their friends, instead of having a mentor giving them good advice, they're going to make mistakes. It's like my little brother, when his fiance got pregnant with their first child, it's because they tried to be responsible and went and got on birth control, and the doctor didn't tell them it takes 30 days to take effect. And I was like, oh yeah, they don't tell you that. You got to learn that the hard way. And he's like, well, what was the point of getting on birth control? They wasn't going to tell me everything I needed to know. I was like, exactly. Now, of course, it kept my nephew.
Your brothers were guns. Your brother was guns ablaze, right? He didn't know that.
Man, exactly.
Hey,
he didn't know he had to still keep the safety on.
That same night, he was going at it.
Listen, but in college, we thought the same thing. We was like, oh, let's go get on this birth control so we can stop buying these condoms. These things are expensive. So, in impoverished neighborhoods, if you can't afford condoms, you're like, well, I'm with this one person. We'll just use the pull-out method. It's 88, 89% effective.
I'm a woman who she wasn't even in her teens or 20s. She was into her 30s. And was told by a doctor that she could not have kids. And boom, she turns up pregnant. So it's not anything that she was prepared for. But she ended up having the child anyway.
And there's so much misinformation. I remember in sex ed, they talked about, diaphragms. They talked about condoms. But they also talked about the rhythm method. Did anybody else get taught about the rhythm method? Like the rhythm method actually was like
I don't know that one.
No, I'm dead serious. It's the rhythm method. Like,
I'm not a hip. Let me know.
Yeah. So basically, I guess it's like you time your pull out or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, it was crazy. But
somebody must have told my other brother that's why I got 7 nieces and nephews from him alone.
Yeah, I think he needed to repeat that class. But hey, we ain't gonna say that because I know that all the babies are a blessing. But it all goes back to white supremacy, though, when you think about it. I mean, when you look at how HIV and AIDS is affecting the black community, right? And you look at the white LGBT community, they basically have it almost under control because they have, first of all, they have the wealth to take the medicine. There's a medicine that you can take, the PrEP medicine that you can take to help prevent you from contracting the disease. Also, the education that comes forward with having, more resources. And you look at black gay men, they don't have the wealth to be able to pay for it. I don't know how much the PrEP costs, but I'm sure it's not cheap. And also the education that comes along with, okay, this is how you protect yourself. I mean, it's very easy for people to get on their high horse and say, everybody should know about condoms, or everybody should know about how you get pregnant. Everybody should know about how you catch HIV and AIDS. But in reality, though, we need to have more education. And I think these draconian laws that, the Republicans are putting forward to try to, penalize people from, being able to make the right decision for their family and for their life. I think that we need to keep a real cautious eye because I definitely think they're coming at black people next. So
the rhythm method is not what you said it was.
Well, what's the rhythm method?
It's like where like a woman, there's only like certain times of the month where they can actually get pregnant, and so you basically count down your cycle and you skip those days. So when you said it was pull out, I think you was meaning like rhythm, like that's not it.
Right. He thought that
Hey.
was the rhythm method.
Yeah, I thought you.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I sure did. I sure blew that, which means that the education. Thank God I didn't have no teenage babies or nothing like that, because
Right.
I sure thought I was doing a little something with my rhythm method.
Yeah.
Good thing you didn't pass that down to your to your son. You know,
Right.
Oh,
the
man.
rhythm.
Don't even
did you?
play that to him. Don't call Aunt C.
Or
No.
did you? Right? Or did you?
Don't even talk about it.
Please don't burn that bread on us. No. Look, we are very, very open and honest. We are very, very open and honest with our kids about, hey, listen, I know you out here doing something. You know, let's keep it real. So now I'm not condoning you doing this. I'm not condoning you having sex unwed, even though I might be a hypocrite on that. I'm not condoning you having sex as a teenager.
Okay.
Hey, come on, Doc. Come on, man. But moving on.
That's good parenting. Leave it vague. Leave it vague.
Right. Yeah. But I'm no fool either. So let me teach you how to protect yourself. Here's a boatload of condoms. Make sure you use them every time. And if you my daughter, don't trust that he just gonna throw that thing on, because stealthing is real. Don't believe that. Let me just stick it in 5 times. Then I'll pull it out. No.
That rhythm method.
Yeah, that was my rhythm method. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, but same thing with my son, because he was like annoyed that I was trying to have the sex talk with him. But I was like, nah, you 13, you go to a school with people who like to give fellatio. I already know. So do we need to start getting condoms? Are you there yet? Are you doing that? He's like, no. I was like, I think you just don't want to talk to me. We're gonna get you some condoms.
So does that mean that your son goes to a school in the suburbs? Can we infer
I
that
knew he was gonna say it.
from your statement?
Yes, my son goes to school in the suburbs.
Hey.
I knew it.
Yeah, but I just think we got to keep it real with these kids, because a child is always a blessing, but it can throw your whole life off track. And we all know people who have slipped up during high school, and they made the decision one way or the other, and there's ramifications for that. You may open yourself up unless you have a strong support system for a couple years of struggle. And I think you may open yourself up, even if you're able to go through, with terminating the pregnancy. There's emotional ramifications that last a long time with that. I mean, I've had friends that have went that route, and some of the regret and everything that goes with it's real, but it still does not give us the right or the authority to be able to tell a woman what to do with her body. So. I think we talked about enough. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. You can listen to the show YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. And we appreciate y'all listening. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Everybody feel the rhythm of the night.
That's funny.